Meeting here in the Public Safety Complex. Today is Thursday, April 4th, and it is currently 6:04 p.m. So first we have a few consent items. We have a bunch of meeting minutes to approve because we've had so many meetings lately, and then a one-day liquor license for Anna Maria College. I will go ahead and read these off as per usual. If you have any corrections or changes, just make an objection and we'll move it to a different place in the meeting agenda. So number one is to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on March 25th, 2024. Number two is to approve the meeting minutes from the executive meeting held on March 25th, 2024. Number three is to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on April 1st, 2024. Number four is to approve the meeting minutes from the executive meeting held on April 1st, 2024. And number five is to approve a one-day liquor license for Anna Maria College for May 8th, 2024, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. for Senior Week event. Are there any objections to any of the consent items?
No.
Hearing none, I declare that they are all approved. We have no new business, and we're here tonight to discuss primarily the warrant, as well as I believe we're going to make some recommendations tonight on the warrant articles and discuss the override amount. So let's talk about, I think, the override amount first before we do anything, if that's okay with you, unless you have something pressing that you would prefer to start with. So you heard previously from Finance that they were of the opinion that they'd like to keep the ambulance receipts in, but roll it back to $300,000. As you know, we have $400,000 still presently in the budget, right, Heather? And then, so that would be a reduction of $100,000 from where we are. Finance again voted last night to support an override of essentially the deficit plus half of the free cash, which gave them an amount of $1,150,000 approximately, which I believe is what they voted in to approve. Of course, the warrant article, will the warrant article have the number in it?
I can do whatever the board wants. So just to clarify, so we weren't planning to do, I think, the recommendations on the articles till Monday,
Oh, okay.
because we also invited FinCom to come to that as well, because they still have to make recommendations on those last two.
Yeah.
So tonight's focus is mostly, are we good with the language of them? And if nothing else, we need a vote on the finalization of the article, of the question or questions for the town election and the amounts associated with those.
Okay, so that's primarily what we're here for. I'll tell you, in my opinion, doing anything but putting the full gap out to the taxpayer is not getting us where we need to be, and it's also not giving those people who want to fund everything the opportunity to do so. So that full gap would be the amount of the deficit, which I think we're still working with the $840,000 number.
Yeah, just Julie, in case anyone's wondering, I'm okay with the 840. Carol gave me a good idea. We have a little leeway on the revenue side pertaining to mostly the bank interest. So I can account for anything that went over that number, so we can stick to the number we've been talking about for a few weeks.
Okay, good. So we've rectified that issue. And then for free cash, what are we working with for a number?
I would probably, our number that's in the budget is 518, but that also accounts for 9,200 for an article. I would probably just round it to 500,000 and make it even.
Okay. And then if we were rolling back ambulance receipts to 300 as Finance had discussed, that would add 100,000 in as well?
Yes.
So we're looking at a number of 1.44 million, 1,440,000. So I'll entertain any discussion that you guys want to have in terms of what the total number should be. You know where I sit. But this needs to be a group decision and group discussion.
Having attended the finance meeting last night, it was 2 to 3 for that figure.
Sorry.
I think the 2 members wanted $1 million.
Right.
I think you watched it, Joy.
I did, yeah. But it's good for the benefit of
Yeah.
anybody who might.
I agree that, I mean, if we're going to go for a figure, I think we need to go for what we need. And I agree with what you're saying. I know our last meeting you said 1.3.
Right, that wasn't taking into account that ambulance receipts getting rolled back. Yeah.
I'm okay with either the 1.3 or the 1.4, because I think that's what we was going for. It's up to you entirely.
Okay,
I can see both sides of it.
right.
I do think it's going to be a hard sell. I think we're going to need to do a lot of work between now and the town meeting, which I know we've got plans to do, and there's a full schedule of all the meetings
Right.
on the website, I believe. But I think if we're going to do it, we need to make sure we're not coming back next year or the year after.
Right. The problem with doing anything less than that is we start putting ourselves back in the same position that we were in. And so if you're going to go for an override, I would want it to stick and last for a while, so we don't have to come back and ask for another one.
So by not using the free cash, I'm assuming we're going to have it at the special, if the override pass,
Yep.
just to go, move forward.
Yep.
The override pass, then we would come back for a special town meeting to put the money into stabilization, so that it doesn't roll into free cash.
So, or, you know, we let it close out the end of the year and then roll over that balance first thing when we get to special time meeting. We're expecting, or I'm expecting to have one in the fall, because we have those zoning bylaws we're gonna need to bring to the town that we had the earmark to cover. So we already have a reason to come to a special town meeting.
No, we can't do that. It has to be before 30th of June.
For what? Doing, rolling to stabilization? I think the idea would be we could let the free cash just sit where the free cash is, roll over to next year's free cash, and then that 500,000 that ends up being certified, that first 500,000 gets appropriated, would be my suggestion, but.
Because nothing happens to it if we don't do anything with it, right? It just sits there.
Just rolls over to free cash.
And then it gets certified. What's the timeline for certification usually?
Next September.
Yeah, probably like September. You have to wait till the books close, and then the treasurer and accountant have to work on free cash certification, but they're usually pretty much on.
But we may as well have it in our own accounts than set out there. But we can talk about that after.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Kirk, your thoughts? Remembering, too, that this isn't necessarily one and done, right? If you put a number out there and it doesn't pass, you come back with a lower number.
I mean, just to keep the boat even in the water, that's where we're at. So, I mean, it's either 1.344 or the 1.44. Either one, and at that point, you might as well just go ahead.
That's my thought. Put yourself in the best position you can,
It's not comfortable, but it is what it is.
all right? All right, so let's start with this. Let's have a motion for a number, and we'll vote. And then we need to, after that, we need to talk about how we're going to decide to allocate that to the town or the school if we have 2 separate articles. That's the next nut to crack. All right, so is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to put the 1.44 million forward for the override.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have a number.
which is more than we've had for a little while.
Right. Making progress. Okay, now, Carol, I'm going to need your help with this because we've done this before, but it was 6 years ago, in terms of having 2 overrides and trying to figure out how much you put on each one. What do you remember about what went into that decision?
I think it was, I can't remember everything associated with it, but I thought it was based on the increase from the year before. That's, I thought.
The increase from the year before?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think it was the percentage of the budget.
Yeah.
Because the budget generally is about 50-50.
Right.
The town's 50% and the school's 50%.
Yeah.
So
So we're looking at the percentage increase.
that's how, I think how we did it.
Okay.
Now, having said that, are we sure we want to put an override on the school, knowing that there's very little chance that another town's going to vote it down?
Right.
I don't know that we know that.
That's the issue, right? Well, I think I can tell you that I went to the budget roundtable with the school over at Wachusett, and all of the other towns were basically on the position that they're probably gonna be able to do it this year. It's next year they're gonna probably have more trouble. And then Heather, you've spoken with some of the town administrators since then. What did you find out?
Yeah, so speaking with the other regional TAs, I didn't speak to Peter Lukes over in Holden, he wasn't at the last meeting, but everyone else seemed to think it was most likely to pass. I know Sterling's FinCom was not currently in support of necessarily all the numbers, but looking historically at it and talking to the TA, they've never had it not pass.
Correct.
So it's a high precedent. They have the ability to fund it in Sterling. I think it probably will pass in Rutland without a problem, and Sherry didn't think it was going to be too much of an issue over in Princeton. And again, they're in a slightly different budget situation than we are this year. It looks like their push year is going to be for most of them next year, where everything's tight and they're not going to be able to fund things.
Yeah, so you remember Rutland was last year. This year is our year. Next year is gonna be, I think, Holden and Princeton, if not also Sterling.
So all I'm trying to say is what we're accomplishing.
Exactly.
And I know some finance members might say we're showing them that we don't support it, but I still don't think that's the way to do it, personally. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
I would much rather see us not necessarily so that we support the school, but work it out so that we can do the override on the town's side and then have an article that is contingent on it not passing like we was going to do so we'd have another article and then have the school's article separate. And the
okay,
reason I said that is because then we don't have to come back to town meeting if it fails. But well, I think you were saying that maybe we would come back to try a lower number. I don't know.
right,
I don't know what we're going to be thinking after
right.
the election, to be honest.
Um,
I think we'll have a better idea after the election.
True. And, you try to, I actually had myself drawn out like an entire decision tree earlier
Yeah.
today because I was trying to figure out all the different ways it can go and then what you would do from there to try and inform the decision about how you do this. And I'll tell you, like, I had, okay, here's the options, pass, pass, fail, fail, pass, fail, and fail, pass, right? If both pass, we're in good shape. If both fail, we know we're coming back. In that case, I think we have to come back for another number. And I have, you can see this one's labeled problem zone. The problem zone is if the town passes and the school fails. Because essentially what you're doing in that scenario is you're setting it up that the town is still gonna have to cut,
Yep,
right?
you haven't achieved anything.
So if you are going to keep the two separate and then have two separate override amounts, then you're running into a problem in the very possible scenario that the town passes and the school fails, no other town ends up failing the school budget, and then we get assessed that same amount, and now we still have to, even though we just passed an override for the town budget, we still have to move some of that money over to the school. The other, the fourth scenario is that the town fails and the school passes, and I think in that case, you're either working off of a very reduced budget or you're coming back for another number and trying again. But this one, I mean, that's where the situation where the town passes and the school fails, that's where you run into all kinds of problems. And you haven't shown that, you haven't done anything, you haven't accomplished anything. All you've done is still manage to come back with a cut budget and not, maybe you've passed a partial override, but it's not getting you where you need to go, so why?
I agree, because you've just gone for the 1.4.
Right.
And you, so I think we're in agreement.
Yeah. So Carol, what you're proposing is that we do an article for the school, which is just yay or nay, not
No,
contingent on an
yeah.
override. And then we do an article for the town, which is contingent on the 1.44. And then do a second article for the town, which is our cut budget.
With the wording that if what was provided before, that if it passes at the ballot,
Yeah,
then the second article isn't valid.
yeah.
That was my thought process before.
Mm-hmm.
And then we only went for 2 articles. Because initially I was saying 4 articles and having the school
Yep,
bit.
right. And if you
But
did
this
it,
one makes a lot more sense.
if you did it this way, then, the people who, like on finance, who decided that, they really don't want to support the school budget, they can still choose not to support the school budget if that's their
I agree.
preference. There's still the opportunity if you, and I'm just throwing it out there, but understanding that I think most people were sitting on the other side of this fence, there is still the opportunity to put them together and have that 1.44 so that both are contingent on it. And then you can choose to come back with a conditional budget or not in the event that it fails, but I'm not sure I would bother with it if you did
I
it
think
that
it's
way.
clearer if we do it, the 3 articles, I really do. And I know a lot's said about, just because we've done it like that in the past, don't have to do it like that anymore. But I think the town's used to it, and I just think it's very clear when you have a separate budget for the school, identifying all the how it's made up, so that people can see that, it's made up of debt, the operation budget, because the override would only be able to be put on the operation side of it, not
That's
the
right,
other ones.
right. How much is the operational assessment?
It's more than,
It's
Yeah,
far,
yeah.
yeah, right. So, the only problem I see with putting the entire deficit amount on the town is that you need to get people out to the ballot. And if there's no school question on the ballot, then you're getting less people out to the ballot.
I think it's the same for the town meeting.
But I think the
Ballot is
the
most
message-
important, yeah.
The message needs to be, the ballot is important, and you are, by doing this, by supporting the town, you're, with this 1.44, you're also
Also supporting the school.
supporting the school.
And I'm gonna revert back to a comment I made at the last meeting, which is, we've gone back to every one of our departments and, chewed the chicken off the bone, so to speak. But we've not had that opportunity to do with what you said. So we're kind of giving them a free pass. That's your number this year? Great, okay, fine, whatever, we'll take it. And then next year, it's the same thing. And then the next year, it's the same thing. So I'm not sure that going about it that way necessarily sends a clear message that, everybody's hurting right now and we can't have our wish list. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, the school budget still could fail and we'd still have to fund it. But then that's putting more burden back on everybody else in town, all the other departments.
So I think you get the opportunity, if you have an article separate for the school, at town meeting, it could get voted down. And then then if another town also votes it down, then the school would have to go back to revise their budget.
But if not, then we have to figure it out.
And if not, then that's the reality we need to face right now. And as much as we don't really want to, right? Because we want to believe that sending the message is going to do something. The reality is it's probably not going to this year. And so we need to be prepared for what the outcome is. And the outcome is that we get assessed that full amount. And Carol's on the right track, I think, by making sure we still have that number in some way, that number we would need in order to fund both. If you split it, if you split the deficit and one of them doesn't pass, you're only getting half of what you need.
I understand that.
As a town, we've not done many overrides at all.
Right.
And actually, had all the facts at the finance meeting. It's been very rare that we've done them for the budgets.
Mm-hmm.
We've always managed to
Find a way.
find a way, but we knew it was going to come and bite us eventually, and this is the year when we've got to do something about it.
Right. Yeah, and, we tried. Is
So-
better than I do.
If we put the 144 forward and the town passes, the school fails, we get assessed, what shortfall does that fall upon the town?
Right.
Because we had carried a certain percentage up to a certain point, and then they came back, I think, 2.5 points higher.
Mm-hmm.
So can we quantify what that is? And
Yeah, so it would depend on how much you wanted to put for an override on each side. If you, for the sake of argument, made it equal, right, at 1.44, you're looking at like 700,000 on each side. Heather, quick math, if you're doing 700,000 on each side, right, and the school fails and then we get assessed, we're short by that amount, right? And so if our full deficit, or I don't want to say full deficit, but our deficit minus free cash is 840, you're still cutting the town budget by at least 140,000, and then you also you're still applying the full amount of free cash to the budget. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Thanks,
But
I
if we go-
called on you and then did it
If we go
anyways.
with the
That's okay.
1.4 and the school passes and the town doesn't, we're in worse shape.
Well, then you come back. At that point, you have to come back. So if the 1.44 doesn't pass, then you have to come back and
You see what I'm saying,
come
though?
up with another number.
Because we're taking to make up that difference from
There's no
the town
guarantee that either
size.
one of them is gonna pass.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. I mean, the ideal situation, what we need is for either both of them to pass, or neither of them to pass, and then we come back and come up with another number. One of those two scenarios.
Was a question.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Just tell us so that the people watching know who you
Sure,
are.
so I don't give you,
Yeah, come this way, Rick, because let's get you a mic so that
Okay.
we make sure that everybody can hear what you're saying.
thank you for letting me speak
Just make
here.
sure it's on.
It is, yeah, I can see it's green, yep.
So just, thank you, but just briefly, Rick Bedard, 8 Pierce Circle. I guess I like the idea of having them together, the school and the town together. And the reason, my reasoning behind it is when you approve the school budget right now, when you don't have an override, it's already embedded in the town budget anyway. So you're actually voting, I know you can hold school, you can hold any line item, but essentially you're voting the whole budget anyway. So it's already embedded. And the warrant articles are like a menu. So the capital warrant articles are a menu. You want this, you don't want that. So I think in the spirit of the way we already do the school budget, having them together is the best way to do it. So that was really what I want to comment on. I'm hearing kind of what you're saying as well. And I kind of agree, like if the school doesn't pass, you're still on the hook for that portion, and then you still be back to square one. So I guess I just want to make a comment about that. I like putting them together. I'm not sure of all the scenarios you talked about, and I do know I've missed some meetings, but I just wanted to say, I kind of like it when they're together, especially when they're so equal. I mean,
Right.
I've looked at the 800,000, or I know it's gone up with the free cash, but when it was 800,000, I think about 420 of that was the school, so it seemed to be equal. So that's all.
Thank you, Rick. So, Rick, do you mind if I out you for what your job is?
Yeah, that's all right.
So Rick works in Millbury, right? For
Millbury,
the school
yes.
system in Millbury.
Yeah.
I've worked with Rick quite a bit, actually, in the past. I didn't know you were coming tonight, so thank you. for
Okay,
being here.
sure.
And Rick was a valuable member of our Town Administrator Search Committee, and has provided some valuable feedback in the past to us in the town, and we really appreciate it when Rick decides he's going to come out, and his dad has been great, too, in the
Oh, good.
past. So we're happy to have you, and I really appreciate your input.
Excellent. All right.
Thank you.
So,
Nick, any thoughts? Nope.
No, I'm here to observe.
Okay.
so in the 1.44,
Yeah.
we take out the 840, which is the town.
Mm-hmm.
That differential covers the school?
No, well, it does and it doesn't, right? Like, so it covers it, but you're still applying the full amount of free cash to the budget. And so you're leaving yourself as tight as you used to be. So next year, we would still be in a tight spot,
Yeah.
assuming that what we expect to happen with the school budget happens, because they're trying to correct. There is no right answer to this. I just want to make that abundantly clear for all of us and our sanity and everybody watching. There's a
No.
lot of different ways that you can do this.
So if we added back the free cash that we need to the 1.44, where would we be sitting so that we're not
That
here?
includes the free cash. The 1.44 includes it already.
So that covers our town, that covers the school, and
Yep.
it covers our free cash.
It does,
So it's just a matter of how we divvy that out.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought about it 6 ways to Sunday. I'm going to tell you, like, how do you divide it out? And I came up with, I don't know, 5 different ways to think about it. And we've talked about 2 of them already, where you look at, what's the difference from last year? Or what's the % of the total budget? I don't think any of those ways you could say is fully accurate, because if you are thinking about the free cash, you'd have to go back to prior years and see how much of that free cash was really added into the budget at the last minute in order to meet the needs of either the school or the town. And I can tell you from experience, over the last 10 years, we did add in a little bit of free cash at the end on a number of years to try to make up a small gap. And that's unfortunately how we got here, but we were doing the best that we can to try not to come to the town for an override where we did have some money to apply. So in that scenario, I don't think anything that's looking only at this year is truly accurate. You'd have to go back a few years as well.
I agree with that.
And so, as Rick aptly pointed out, the 2 are incredibly close together in terms of how much each one of them contributes to the budget. So if you were going to separate the 2, I don't see a way to do it other than do it equally, personally, and then have it be fair to each side.
But you pointed out a very good thing, that if either one fails, we haven't reached this goal.
Correct. We haven't gotten where we need to be. So we're putting the full amount on the town and calling it town at the ballot, which I think potentially reduces your turnout. That's the only concern that I have about doing it that way.
But then we're losing the voice of people who would want to vote for the town, not the school, and the school, not the town, and et cetera and so forth.
Well, they would have that voice at town meeting.
Every resident, every voter has got a voice at the town meeting and the ballots. It's their choice whether they they want to attend
Right.
or want to go out to the ballot and vote. I think over the next weeks, there's going to be a lot of information provided, starting on Monday, with the departments coming out and providing information of what the town's going to lose. And it's not a threat, it's information,
Right.
because it's a reality that every department will be reduced in some way. So significantly.
Right.
And then not just this year, it'll be a knock-on effect. You'll never get it back.
Right.
So I think every taxpayer and registered voter, resident should be looking for that program. I believe we're going to put it on YouTube, Heather,
So, yeah.
as
so
well
on-
as on the
Yeah,
town's.
so we have a list of, so folks start wandering to the website, we have a pop-up button right there that's already the FY '25 budget. And all of the videos that have been budget-related, FinCom's, all materials since they
It's all
started
there.
meeting in like March are all on there. We'll keep building it. It's an older website, so it takes a little more finesse to try to get things where they are. So if there's information people see that they like, they let us know. We're working on an FAQ page, so we're trying to put all those pieces together. But the video from Monday will most certainly be there. We're just trying to figure out the right location to place it so people can easily find it.
Right.
But yes, absolutely.
So, and I think that's where we get the information out, the informational meetings that are also coming up in the next couple of weeks, and hope that everybody educates themselves enough to want to support the town.
Right. And I think that the big message, if we go with the 3-article option, the big message needs to be that we anticipate that the school budget is going to pass in the other 4 towns. And so we can turn it down for sure at town
Yeah.
meeting. We will have to come back to town meeting and pass it. I mean, you don't even have to do that, right? Because you're going to get assessed either way, so it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. If no other town fails it, then, I suppose you don't have to go back to town meeting. You don't have to, because you're going to get assessed.
No, you still have to come to appropriate it. You have to go to town meeting to appropriate it.
Okay. So if the school fails at town meeting, we know we have to come back to another town meeting. And that would be after all of the other towns have voted. Then the message needs to be that, assuming that all the other towns have voted and the school is passing, that we need this money on, that we're looking for on the override. Otherwise, we're going to end up having to cut the town budget either way. And unfortunately, the town budget is so razor thin right now that that means cutting people and losing a lot of services. So that's where we're at. Okay. So we have a number. We have a thought process to put that number onto the town warrant article, and then essentially change the warrant article so that there are 3. We'll add back in the cut budget article, which we can't call the cut budget article, but we can call the, how do we need to refer to it?
Reduce
Not
services.
contingent on an override. But we'll call it, what do you call it? Internally, we're going to call it the reduced services one, so that we know what we're talking about.
Okay.
Otherwise, once you start using contingent and non, and I complained to
Oh.
legal, I was like, this is really confusing language for the normal person who's like, what
Extremely.
are you telling me?
Extremely. So, okay. So let's do this. Why don't we open the warrant and add the articles if that's the way we want to go. And then we'll talk about, then we'll have another motion to put, to make the ballot question what it needs to be.
Are you okay, Kirk?
Yeah,
Does that work?
yeah, that works.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion to open the warrant?
I'll make a motion to open the warrant.
Is there a
I
second?
that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the warrant is open, again. we're going to, now I need a motion to place the Wachusett Regional School District budget on the warrant as Article 16, not contingent on an override. If that's what we want to do. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
We don't have to say anything like that. We just have to say, put
Right, you just have to remove the language that's currently
yeah,
there.
there's no contingent or non-contingent needs to be on there.
Yeah, oh, right, because it's not.
Yeah.
How is it
Yeah,
in
I'll
the-
just
Yeah,
rewrite
it's
the
just
article
going to
from
say
older
the
version.
It's just going to say
Okay.
the budget, that's all. It's just
Yeah.
going to say budget, Wachusett Regional School District.
So, so we'll change Article 16 to just the Wachusett Regional School District budget.
Right.
Is there a motion for
I'll
that?
make so moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. All right, so the next one will need to be a article. It would be Article 17 on the warrant, which would be the town budget article,
Which is there at the moment.
contingent on an override, which is there
Yeah.
currently. So
Yes.
we don't need to, it's already there, we don't need a motion for that. Okay. So the next thing we would need is a motion to place back for Article 18, a reduced services budget, which will be appropriately named according to town council when it goes on the warrant. In the event that Article 2 or the override fails. Did I say that right?
It's fine, I know
Yeah.
what you're trying to
Yeah.
articulate, I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One
got the wording for
question.
Yeah,
Under Article 16 and Article 17, and then what will be Article 18, which is non-contingent, so that it wouldn't matter to that. Will there be a number
Yes.
placed in there? Because right now there's not.
Because I
Yeah,
didn't know the number before tonight,
I
Kirk.
understand that, but
Yes, there will
yeah.
be,
there will
kind
be
of
none.
pointing out the obvious.
so
We're
I'll revise,
not voting on blank checks.
once the board votes on these this evening, I will get these revised and get them over to Brian first thing in the morning to make sure he has no objection with them. I'll plug in the numbers, and then I get to attach the draft budgets on the very back, and then I also have to get it over to FinCom. Because they haven't,
They
they're
need
gonna be
to-
looking at new language on Monday when they meet with us.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Okay.
back to number 18.
Yep, so I need a motion
Oh,
for
sorry,
a reduced
number.
services budget to be placed as Article 18 on the
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. All right, now I need a motion to close the warrant,
I'll make a motion to close the warrant for 2020, whatever.
2024
Four.
annual town meeting.
May
Yep,
6.
good.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that's taken care of. So the next thing we need to do is set the ballot question so that that can get over to Lori, and the ballot can be printed. So, do you have language? Do you want to?
Sure, I can read it out loud for you.
Yep.
So it's the language that is required by law for it. So we only get to fill in two holes. One is the amount and one is the purpose, right? So the question will read, question 1, Proposition 2.5 override. Shall the town of Paxton be allowed to assess an additional $1,440,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the operating budget of the town for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024? Yes? No? Note that yes is the first option. I don't know if that helps us at all, but.
It's like having an incumbent. All right.
But unfortunately, that's the language the state requires us to use. We have
Yeah.
no
That's general law.
leeway.
Yep. So that is the ballot question based on how we have the articles set. Is there a motion to approve that as the ballot question for
So
the
moved.
annual town meeting? The annual
Second.
town election.
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. I have not the right thing in front of me. There we go. So, I have no correspondence, but I do want to make a comment that I actually wanted to do at the beginning of the meeting, but I want to thank the Paxton Light Department, the Paxton DPW, Paxton Fire Department, Paxton Police for all of their work that they did, and hopefully I'm not leaving anybody out, but all of the work that they did.
All the mutual aid.
And the mutual
Yeah,
aid,
mutual aid
absolutely,
for the
because we
department.
had other light departments coming in. I think West Boylston and Holden both came in to help us out, because we got hit pretty hard here compared to some of our other towns. And they were out, I think, starting very early this morning, dealing with multiple trees down, some trees on houses, trees blocking roads, trees on wires.
Trees on cars.
Trees on cars. And a car accident, all at the same time. And they handled it beautifully with good coordination throughout town. And here we are with nice, clean roads, and I can't thank them enough. I know that there were some people in Paxton that lost power at some point during the night and today, and I've heard nothing but glowing reviews for the service that they received in restoring power quite efficiently. So thank you to everybody. It was a tough storm, especially a late season storm like this, and everybody really stepped up.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it was
Extremely
nice.
heavy.
It was nice to see all the thank yous on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
For all the assistance that was given, because there was quite a lot of power outages this morning,
Right.
wasn't there?
Yep, yep. So thank you to
Great
all our
job.
town departments and the Paxton Light Commission and Paxton Light Department that really worked hard through this, so.
And in the midst of it all, the department heads, they were giving us updates throughout the day. It was nice to hear.
Yep,
It's easier than.
just great
better than listening to the
communication.
scanner.
Yeah, we've really come a long way, I think, in our ability to handle these kinds of things. Unfortunately, it's because we've had quite a few of these kind of events, but we're learning and we're getting better and doing great, so thank you to everybody. Sorry, go ahead. Do you want to say something?
I just want to, I mean, I know it's early in the, because it is early in the budget season. Not usually it is. It's usually not early this
Right.
time. But with what we're going to go through in the next month, I just want to say that thank the Finance Committee for all the work they're doing.
Yes,
I know sometimes we're saying one thing and they're saying the other thing, but we're not doing it to be antagonistic, or we appreciate everything they do. It's just that we've got our own opinions.
yep,
And also, at last night's meeting, all the department heads were attended. I mean, it wasn't a short meeting, it was a couple of hours at least, and they were all there. And that's been the norm this season, that they've been taking an interest and attending in their own time. So I want to thank them all for being there, and the Finance Committee for all the work they're doing.
right. Yeah, I completely agree. You know, I did notice last night when I was watching the Finance Committee meeting that even though the members in the Finance Committee didn't necessarily agree with each other, everybody still moved on, everybody still ended amicably, and I think that there's a lot to be said for that, because especially in a situation like we're in right now, where it's very difficult and there's a lot of different opinions about how you should move forward, we have to remember we're still all in this together, and I think having all of us involved in discussing this overall, and not to sound, cheesy, but we do get a better result with everybody's input. So I think that's so super important, and I really want to just applaud everybody's effort here, finance and select board combined.
Well, and as a select board, having the cohesiveness of all the other boards and the department heads, it just seems like, it's gotten better and better over the last year and a half.
Yeah,
And it helps us make better decisions.
right. And I don't want to leave out the town administrator, who has been working very diligently on this.
Providing all the information.
And, frankly, is on the phone with me daily lately, as I have questions, and what about this scenario, and what about that, and how do we do this, and getting me all those answers. So I thank you, Heather, for that. Much appreciated. All right. Town administrators report. Anything to report?
We're working on the budget.
Yep.
So
I'm not surprised.
I would just encourage, residents at home, anyone who's interested, again, we've worked pretty hard. Lori has done an amazing job helping us try to figure out how to navigate the website to get everything where it needs to be. She spent countless hours on trying to get things to where they currently are, and every time I go in to touch something, it defaults back to the community page, which has been super fun. So I think FinCom cannot hold any more meetings, because every time I update a video, it goes back. But that being said, if people check that information out there, once we get everything posted on that page, I would say probably by Monday, we'll send out just a news blast to let folks know the page is there for information on the budget, should they have questions. We've already started, but it won't come up until it has a little more information. We have the FAQ page. It also has sites to Division of Local Services. Division of Local Services is a state organization. They have a great few videos to explain what Prop 2.5 is, how to do an override and so forth. So I think sometimes for people who are just hearing this for the first time, maybe they're new to town, or they're just like, what is this municipal finance term? They get some of that information there. So we'll continue to put that, but if there's anything anyone can think of that they're interested in, that they want for information, we will get the budget sheets, the budget backup, all of those pieces on here as well. Again, it's just trying to figure out the right spot to put it, so it's kind of intuitive that people can go to it without overwhelming one page. Like, initially, we were looking, I was going, oh no, this is gonna be like a 40-minute scroll all the way to the bottom to get the information. We don't want that. We want it in
Right.
small chunks, so people can find exactly what they're looking for when they're looking for it. And same thing with information sessions. So our information session, starting with Monday night, the budget presentation, going from there, we tried to do one at least once a week. And we have quite a few of them. I think we have 3 of them that are virtual on Zoom. And we tried different days and different times. We're trying to catch everyone, right? So if people are available, try to hit those pieces up. I think the only one that's going to be recorded at this time is the one on Monday night for the select board. And we've already talked to Scott, and he mentioned earlier he's going to record it as a separate session.
Yeah.
So we can grab that video and link it. Not to say people don't want to watch the rest of the select board meeting, but if they're interested in, just that informative piece of the impacts, that will give them the information they're looking for in that piece. Whenever possible, I've been trying to pull from the YouTube videos as opposed to the video on demand. I know you probably need the premium on YouTube, but there is a way you can actually download it. So like if you're commuting somewhere and you're like, I really want to listen in, but I don't have time to watch this, you can always download the video and watch it while you're driving. Or, not watch it, sorry, that's not what I meant. Listen to the video while you're driving.
Yep.
So you can get the information that way, and so forth. But again, if anyone has any questions, if they let us know, we're happy to look into it, try to work on it. I did meet with the seniors at the COA Morning Cafe on Wednesday. I didn't give them too much information because we didn't really have numbers yet. So we just kind of talked in general what the override was, how we got to where we are with the budget and so forth. They invited me back again at the end, their next one, which I think is May 1st. I'll bring the large department heads with me on that meeting so we can answer any additional questions. And what we would expect is our seniors are very concerned, right? Some of them are on fixed incomes.
Sure.
They're concerned about how they're going to be able to afford the additional costs and how they're going to be able to stay in the town. So, I'll continue to work with Cindy, continue to work with the assessor's office to make sure we're both providing them all the information that's currently available and opportunities for exemptions and so forth, as well as looking into any additional possible options or anything that's out there. So if anyone knows something that they haven't heard us say, reach out to us and we'll look into it. And if there's anything else the board wants us to look into, happy to do it.
Okay. One thing, if we can put this on that budget information page or wherever we're keeping town meeting information, if that's separate, can you put the Citizens Guide to Town Meetings on there?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Can
I
do
think
that.
that's a really helpful
It
document.
is, yeah. Also, the Saturday, there's an open house here.
Yep, yeah, I have the list up, I'm gonna read off some
Okay,
of the
all right, sorry.
upcoming ones. So the COA Morning Cafe was on, as Heather mentioned, went by this past Wednesday. On Saturday, that's this Saturday, April 6th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., there's going to be a Meet Your Town Department session that will include police, fire, and DPW. That's taking place here at the Public Safety Building. Monday, as Heather mentioned, is our our budget presentation, which is going to take place here at the Select Board meeting at 6 PM. You can come here to watch it, you can watch it live streamed on YouTube, or you can wait and watch it later. It will be available, as Heather mentioned, as a chunk, that just 1 hour chunk, if that's all you want to see. And what will be presented during that meeting is what happens if our override doesn't pass and where we expect to end up with our department, so that you can see what the impact will be and won't be. We have a budget information session at the library coming up on Tuesday, April 16th, and that will be at 6 PM. The next one will be Zoom on Thursday, April 18th, and that will be at noon. There will be another one in the Paxton Center School cafetorium, and that will be on April 24th at 6 PM. We have another Zoom on Friday, April 26th at 10 AM. And then a third Zoom, because we're trying to kind of hit different times of the day so that we give everybody the opportunity to attend. We have another Zoom on Tuesday, April 30th at 6 PM. And then a budget information session at the COA again on May 1st, as Heather mentioned. And then another budget information session here at the Public Safety Building on Sunday, May 5th, just prior to town meeting the next day. Okay, so that's what we've got lined up. I know Heather's trying to coordinate individuals to be present. I know Carol already signed up for a few. I haven't signed up yet, but I will definitely. And so we'll make sure that, you know, there's somebody hopefully representing the board at each of these meetings as much as possible, as well as department heads and whoever else we can get to attend, so that we make sure we can answer all questions.
And I'll reach out to FinCom too to see if they want to have
Oh,
any
that's a good point.
representation or if they
Yep.
have any availability to
Yeah.
attend.
Yep. Excellent. Okay, so with that, I have no public comment, anything?
Can I
Yeah,
ask just a
for
question?
sure, yeah.
Sure, sorry.
That's okay, come on up. Sorry to make you move, I wish
No,
I,
that's all right. Well, I chose to be way back there. But it's Rick Bedard, 8 Pierce Circle. So on Monday, that's great.
Yeah.
Great information to have. And I am interested, you know, to see what would happen to the departments if things didn't pass. But I assume that we'll also learn if it does pass, what that means for the average taxpayer, like the average.
sure.
Yeah.
You'll have
Yep.
some information
Yeah.
on that?
yep,
Yeah.
Perfect.
yep.
Thank you.
There's already some information on the website, but I think we're going to plug in the new amount now, aren't we?
Yep,
Yep.
yep, so I
It's in
will.
between numbers.
Yeah, so there's, Rick, on the Finance Committee Materials page that's under the FY '25, there's a tax impact sheet that's already up there, so it's not gonna give you the precise 1.44, but it will give you 1.3,
Yeah.
1.2, and, you know, a few other, you can kind of divvy the number in between, or I can always give you the link and you can calculate it yourself if you're interested. But otherwise, all that information, we'll have that up in the next day or two. I just didn't want to specifically point, I didn't want to give 17 options to folks to be like, here's the potential that your taxes could increase by, but I'm not sure which one.
Right,
I
right.
didn't want to overwhelm folks yet. I wanted to wait until we had the precise info, but we'll get that up there.
Okay.
Will there be a link to the DLS in that budget
Yeah, so we
information?
already have some information that already links to it. So when you go to the, and you know, I don't know if it's, that one might not be up yet. No, it's on my
don't think it is.
FAQ page.
I don't think
Okay.
it is.
So
I didn't
it's,
see it.
I've been trying to keep Lori from wanting to scream when I call her. I've been trying to finish the page as much as I can, and then she just puts it where it needs to go. So I currently do have that rolling on the FAQ page. I was thinking about cross-referencing in a couple spots too.
Okay,
But we'll make sure we get that all up. And if I'm missing something or someone's interested in something I don't have, let me know and we'll add it.
perfect. Great, thank you. All right. So I have nothing further. There's no more public comment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.